What's happening, people? Good afternoon. Welcome to United View. Breaking news. Ralf Rangnick has left Manchester United. Manchester United have confirmed. Ralf Rangnick has confirmed he's left his post. He will not be doing his 2 years consultancy role. We're going to get into that. Welcome to the community. Happy Sunday. Good afternoon, everyone. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new. It is breaking news, and Ralf Rangnick has left Man United. And you know what? I'm not surprised. It was there something wasn't right. I called it when I saw it, and I thought it would be in the next sort of 3 months. I said we'd start not hearing from him. He would just get pushed to the side. When Ten Hag came in his first presser, and his literal thing was, that's on the club. That didn't sound great as well. And he's now left them here with Owen. Let's just get straight into this, Owen. Let's just get straight into it. Let's get straight into the official press release from Manchester United. This is as it reads. Ralf Rangnick has announced that he will not be staying on at Manchester United as a consultant due to the demands of his new role as Austria manager. So the first thing is that, I think I've taken on, from what it says from here, I think I've taken on too much, more than I can chew. I think I've bitten off more than I can chew here because I think the Austria manager role is going to take up too much of my time. I think that's bullshit, but we'll carry on. Rangnick confirmed the news in a press conference with Austria on Sunday. And Manchester United said, we would like to thank Ralf Rangnick for his efforts as interim manager over the past 6 months. By mutual agreement, Ralf will now focus solely on his new role as manager of the Austria national team and will not therefore be taking up a consultancy role at Old Trafford. We would like to wish Ralf the best of luck in this next chapter of his career. Rangnick took charge at the beginning of it. We don't need to read that. Once again, we are grateful to Ralf for his hard work and wish him the best for the future. He will now take charge of Austria for their up-and-coming Nations League fixtures as they face Croatia, Denmark, and France in Group A1. Owen, the community, what are you lot saying? Is this, I don't know, Ralf realizing that he's not wanted? Is this Man United being scared to keep working with someone who said things how they were? How do you see this? How do you lot see it in the community as well?
It's a really strange one because in one essence, it is surprising in terms of the nature, in terms of just like he didn't even get anywhere near the consultancy role and he's gone. On the other hand, as you mentioned, it's not totally surprising, particularly when, if you look at these things in stages, when they kept asking him, what does this consultancy role really consist of? And the answer he kept giving was, haven't spoken about it, focusing on the team, haven't spoken about it. Eventually, that then pivoted to, well, I think it's obvious what it will consist of. And he sort of hinted that it would be in terms of recruitment, because that's what he specializes in, recruitment. He's been a sporting director for most of the past decade. It will consist of recruitment. So we thought that's what his consultancy role was going to consist of. But then that kind of got muddied a little bit when he became the Austria manager. People going, how is that going? That seems odd. How is that going to work? And he stressed, no, I can do both. And, the Austria job is going to be a couple of times, the consultancy job is going to be how much it was going to be a month, a couple of days a month or what have you. And then the real red flag was Erik Ten Hag's first press conference, because when he was asked, what do you think of the Ralf Rangnick consultancy role? He just said, that's on the club. That's all he said. That's on the club.
Yeah.
And basically sort of saying, look, that's the club's decision. It's not mine. Now, some of the things we're hearing right now is prior to leaving Manchester United, he did have a conversation with Erik Ten Hag. Now, I don't think it was in person, but they were saying he did have a conversation with Erik Ten Hag. And again, I might be making assumptions here. We know what happens when you make assumptions. But the feeling I get is that this conversation has happened and Erik Ten Hag's basically said, look, I appreciate your advice. I appreciate your guidance, but we're just going in a complete different direction. We're going over here. You're over here. And it's probably not going to work out. And Ralf's just gone, all right. To be honest, considering Ralf's experience at Manchester United that he has had since December last year, could you blame him? He's probably thanking them. Cheers. Yeah. Thanks for letting me go. I want to get as far away from this club as possible, considering some of the relationships he's had with some of these players, some of these reports about what they've been calling him and his coaches behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't blame him if he went, oh, well, fine. Cheers. I'm out of here. And when it comes to Ten Hag might just be like, look, as he mentioned, I draw my own line. I draw my own decisions. I come up with my decisions. Ralf Rangnick's not part of my decisions. It's just a mess, though. I mean, all in all, it is just so in keeping with Manchester United, isn't it? Of we're going to get an interim manager in, but don't worry, he's not going to be short term because he's going to be here for 2 years afterwards as consultancy because we're planning long term, and the long term planning hasn't even worked out in the short term in terms of qualifying for the Champions League, and then it didn't even work out in the long term of doing the role he was supposed to come in for, the consultancy role. We couldn't even get that right, and that just again goes to show just the ineptitude that is Manchester United. Just nothing works. Nothing.
No, I think you're bang on. I think what we shouldn't do is forget, what Ralph did. I think it was important what Ralph did. What Ralph did was allow us to actually have that breathing space and time to go and find Ten Hag. Someone had to do that. So, he didn't reach the short-term things. It was a disaster. The players got shown for what they really were. The coaching staff got shown for what they really were. And you could argue that Ralph got shown a little bit for what he is, which is not a fantastic manager, but airing stuff and knowing what probably needed to be done to take the football club forward, which is why we was all looking forward to the consultancy role. We said, even when he got appointed, do you know what? It's not so much about the next 6 months. That's a bonus if we can get this or get that.
That's
like
the irony,
said,
isn't it?
We said it's about the 2 years afterwards. And slowly and surely, the closer we got to the appointment of a permanent manager in Ten Hag, you could just feel it. The way he was kind of handling the press conferences before Ten Hag even got here. The players were moaning. They weren't taken to Ralph. He was never really liked. And this just seems like another way to get it out. And to be fair, like you said, even when he took the Austria job, he made it very clear. I'm looking for, well, first of all, he said, I need to speak to the club. And then he came back to us basically saying, yeah, I'll be here for my 2 years. I'm happy with, this, that, and the other, and I'll have time to do both and stuff like that. And all of our ears kind of went, I ain't sure. I don't know. That sounds a bit. Let's start phasing him out. That sounds a bit, out of sight, out of mindish. And then Ten Hag came in and dropped that one. You just knew. I never thought it'd be this quick, but I literally thought after a few months, we ain't hearing from that guy again. And I'm not surprised to see this. CJ says, how do you fire someone before they even start the main part of their job? That's a madness. Exactly. I actually think Eric Ten Hag has a lot to do with this. I really do. We're going to get into that in just one sec when I get these super chats out. Asher says, Eric Ten Hag said it's a club decision. Ralph stated he can definitely do the United job and the Austrian job. Murto didn't back Ralph right now. The club forced him out. And super chat here from Christopher said, Flex, what moisturizer do you use?
I mean, it's off topic, but answer it.
Yeah, it's off topic, but I use Astral and I use cocoa butter sometimes as well. So there you go. Big up KG. I think he's going to be on the show later on. We've got a full view later on tonight at 7 p.m. Make sure you guys tune in for that. KG says, I'm shocked by this news. He says, I'm shocked. And WJ Barrett says, I was happy when we got Ralph, but his tenure as manager has tainted his credibility with how poor the team finished. Agreed. It was a disaster. Agreed. After researching Ralph, his credentials ain't all that. He's won nothing. We knew that. We knew he wasn't a top manager. That's why a lot of us were saying it's about afterwards. It's about getting him into his strongest position, which I agree is not a manager. He's not renowned for being a fantastic manager. It's something other than that. But let's get into the Ten Hag situation, because I think he's played a big part in this. I honestly do. I think when I listened to how Ten Hag was coming across in his press conference, saying, I'm very sure of myself, I make my own decisions. Obviously, he batted off the look at let's compare and contrast how he spoke about Mitchell van der Gaag and Steve McLaren potentially coming in versus what he said about Ralph. Oh, what do you think about Ralph's appointment on the club? Basically, not my decision. Ask them. I never asked for this guy. Then when he's talking about Mitchell van der Gaag and Steve McLaren, they're his guys. He chose to bring them. He said they've got experience of winning, and Steve McLaren has been here, etc. It's very, very complimentary. So for me, I'm like, I think Ten Hag has come in. We spoke, and this is the other side of the coin where I know we're angry, but let's look at this side. We keep saying it's about signings. We're saying it's about signings, about what if Ten Hag really wants this guy? What if he really wants that guy? What if one of the first things Ten Hag said was, I'll speak to Ralph. But yeah, I've made my decision early on. I don't need him to do the recruiting. I don't need him to outline a plan. I know what needs to be done. Let's find someone else. I've got my eye on other people, and they've given Ten Hag the power to do that. What if it's that?
Yeah, I can see that. I can certainly see it being, like I said, the conversation's had, and then it's Ralph realizing, oh, okay, maybe Ten Hag doesn't really want me involved, and if you don't want me involved, I'm not going to be here. But again, I also look at it as we hired a guy for a position that doesn't exist, there wasn't any space for, and we never did in the end. Talk about incompetence. What a waste of money. What a waste of time.
Yeah,
And again, going back to my point of how many times, and I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but how many times have we heard those reports of Ralph Rangnick recommended this player? Ralph Rangnick recommended this. Ralph Rangnick wants this player. And every single time it's no. He's not involved in any of that. He's never been involved in any of that. If he was involved in any of this strategic planning, he would still be here. He's not. He's not here anymore because he wasn't involved. He wasn't involved in any plans. He wasn't involved in anything like that. And again, it just sort of reeks of. And if it is Ten Hag's decision, and Ten Hag and Ralph had that meeting, and it was just okay, it's probably best if you leave and focus on the national team job. Fine, that's his call. But again, Ten Hag would then surely go to the club. Why did you have that in place when you knew you were searching for a guy like me? Because when they appointed Ralph as the interim, they must have had Ten Hag in their mind at that point. They must have had some discussion with Erik Ten Hag going, do you want to come in? I want to see the remainder of the season with Ajax. Okay, we're going to put in an interim manager, Ralph Rangnick. Okay, then he's going to be a consultant at the end of the season. If Erik Ten Hag was already set on coming at that point, he'd be like, whoa, pump the brakes on that. I don't need a consultant for when I come in or anything like that. Again, it's just this sheer lack of planning. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Yeah. And it's embarrassing. It is. It really is just embarrassing. And the idea, to go back to the original statement, the idea that you can't balance a club job with a national team job, the amount of people that have and still do it. Arsenal's assistant manager was, I don't know if he still is, assistant manager at Wales, right? Steve McLaren. For those years when he's coming back to United, when he was the Middlesbrough manager, he was with Sven-Goran Eriksson at Euros and World Cups. Like, people still do that. Like, the idea that, he's going to be so busy with the Austria job that he can't do a 2-day-a-month consultancy role at Manchester United. Yeah, that's not true. That's not true. In reality, a decision's been made, whether it's by Ten Hag, whether it's by someone at the club, because we heard those things as well. They weren't very happy with some of the things that Ralph has been saying. And
it's all that.
That gets a bullseye on your back. You know, why are we paying this guy? He's saying more shit.
It's all that. I think it's that. I think his card, like you said, the target on the back / your cards marked. That happened with Ralph. That I don't think he cared about endearing himself to the Manchester United board or the people who make decisions. And we were all very happy with that as fans, because that needed shaking up. That needed calling out. That needed showing for what it really was, which was a shambles. Even some people in the media, some of the ex-pros and stuff like that, I think Rio was talking about it most, was like he didn't like the way that he was kind of saying things as they are. We were getting reports like we've had all season, but especially since Ralph has been there, about Ralph's methods, what they think of him. He just wasn't coming across well, was he? But we didn't care about that as fans, because that's the whole problem here. You lot want familiarity. You want the pat on the back and the arm around the shoulder and the smiles and the vibes when you're doing shit. Like, this whole thing stinks. This guy's coming in and airing out what it really is. Then I think they didn't want that heat. But then I do think the final dagger, do you know what I mean, was Ten Hag, though. I think they probably said, look, we're not really bothered what you do with Ralph. Like, we've promised him this 2-year thing, so we've had to kind of give him it. But it's your choice. If you say you don't want him, in fact, actually, that will help us, because then we can just press the button anyway. We were kind of thinking it anyway. We were going to let him just do
happy around here.
Exactly. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And plus, you've got full control. Like, you can just do your own thing. You can replace Ralph with whoever you want to do it with and stuff like that. Show Rahman, thanks for the super chat. Says, club ignored Ralph's recommendations for signings in the January window. Didn't involve them in the manager search. Signs have been there for months. Absolutely agree. Even the way Ralph, again, they wouldn't have, I don't think they particularly would have liked him even being as refreshing as he was with explaining what even happened in January. That was very damning when he said that. Yeah, he said, I told him there was Darwin Núñez, there was Vlahovic, there was Luis Diaz, there was this player, there was that player. He said it. Yeah. He even gave the examples. It doesn't matter why the answer was no. It was no.
They asked him about the manager search as well. They said, have you been involved in that? He goes, I know who they're talking to.
Yeah.
But You know, the idea that people go, "Oh yeah, Ralph really pushed for Ten Hag." He
No,
didn't. He
no,
didn't,
not at
because
all.
he
Not
got
at
asked in
all.
press conferences, "Have you been involved in that?" He went, "I know who they're talking to, and they're all good."
Yeah,
That's about
yeah.
it.
So he just knew there was interviewing Pochettino. He knew there was interviewing Ten Hag. He knew there was interviewing, I don't know, Luis Enrique if it was him, and whoever else, Valverde, whoever. You know, they knew. He knew that, but they never went, which one do you think we should go for?
No.
Aminor says, Flex, Man United's strategy is poo. Why hire Ralph initially? Agreed. If they had no intention of really listening to him and following it through, well, they probably did have the intention of that at the beginning, but it quickly went to, oh, he's a bit strong. Probably, oh, no, don't like this. Don't like this. No, no. I just think that. Imran says, people who diss Ralph for his managerial stint don't know anything about him. He's not a manager. He's a club builder. Agreed. And Limania44 says, United is too toxic for sober-minded people to succeed. There you go. With Ralph basically just being, sensible and going about his business in a sober way. He just couldn't fit in with the madness, basically. JG, thanks for the super chat. Says, say what you want about his coaching. He and Ronaldo pulled the curtains on the mess at United. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Just calling it as it is. Where do you think we go from here then? Because I'm not saying it should all be doom and gloom and, oh my God, look what's happening. We're
No.
falling apart again. Because, the important thing to remember is that Ten Hag probably would have had a part in this. I really do
Yeah.
think he would have
I
had a part
don't
in this.
think
So where do we
yeah,
go from here?
I don't think we fail because Ralph Rangnick's left. I
No,
don't think it's
no.
like, oh, we're going to have a terrible summer now because Ralph Rangnick's left, or next season we're going to be awful because Ralph Rangnick's not involved with the club anymore. No, it's another embarrassment. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
In
another
terms of
thing that didn't work.
in
Another
terms
bad
of our
decision.
in terms of our long term, does it really affect us long term? You could argue if he was involved in recruitment, it might affect us long term because we might miss out on players. Maybe Ralph Rangnick doesn't make a recommendation to United for a certain player that now goes to Liverpool or City or somewhere else, and it goes really well, right? Maybe that's what happened. But in terms of long term, is it going to have a massive knock on effect? No. But my biggest problem is with it isn't necessarily the action itself. It's just more the embarrassment, just the lack of planning involved in it. Yet again, it's another headline. The day after Liverpool lose a Champions League final, people are still pointing and laughing at Manchester United. It should be us today. It shouldn't. We should be basking in Liverpool's failure yesterday, going, ha, 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 you lost. But no, they're pointing and laughing at us again because we did something stupid, because we can't manage our club, because the guy that we got in for a short-term basis just to get us to the end of the season barely made it to the end of the season. And the job for 2 years he was meant to have, he didn't even start. And it's such a soap opera. That's my biggest frustration with it. It's yet another embarrassment, yet another eye roller, yet more attention on Manchester United's, decision-making process for being bad. And the only thing you would say is it's just even more pressure on an already pressurized summer. Because if we go through the summer and we don't do well in the transfer market, which again, I don't think Rangnick really affects that much. But if we go through the summer and we don't really buy anyone, or the people we buy are rubbish, and we start the season really badly, people will point to it because there's even more scrutiny now. There's even more scrutiny on people going, what's going on at United?
Yeah. I think if you look at Ralph's tenure and you was to kind of sum it up, it's an absolute disaster. Is that it?
Mess.
I know we're saying that the only good to come of it was to hear him kind of say things in the press conferences, which was basically that the players are shit, and of course we need 8 players and 10 players and whatnot. Players need to leave. But if you're wrapping up, did we not already know that? Like, is there a bit just to play devil's advocate for anyone who might be thinking, so what? Ralph's gone. What did he even do?
Yeah, there are people that don't like him. There are people who are like, I don't know why you like him because he's done terrible with United. He was meant to get us top 4. He didn't. And
would they be right?
Fair.
Are they right? Do they have a point? Do people have a point? My question to you is, do people have a point who say, well, we were playing shit under Rolly when he came in. We carried on playing shit. We played all right for 30 minutes against Crystal Palace. Then we carried on playing shit, lost loads of games, didn't get in the Champions League, went out of the cup competitions. And yeah, get rid. What would you say to people who think that?
You can argue it's fair, in terms of what he was brought in to do initially, not in the long term, but till the end of the season, his role was to sort of salvage our season and get us top 4. That didn't happen. irrespective of the reasons why, that is a fail. If you're on your test paper, you'd get an F. You didn't achieve what you were meant to achieve. My sort of caveat to that is that I don't even know if it was actually possible at all with any manager, considering the
Exactly.
circumstance at the club, the players at the club, the circumstance in the dressing room, just the sheer mess. I don't really think Ralph knew what he was walking into. And maybe that's on him. Maybe that's naivety on his point, because I think he thought there was this sports car at Manchester United and it just needed a bit of an oil change. And then he pumped the hood and went, oh my God, that car is barely running. Like, what is going on? You know, that's the issue. And maybe that's on him.
Ralph Rangnick's points per game, 1.5, and win percentage, 42%, are both the lowest of any Manchester United manager in the Premier League. I mean, so basically, statistically, after Ollie, he's come in and we've got worse. Like, we're already bad with them shit players, which we knew was shit. But it got worse statistically.
And I do, as I mentioned, I think that's a part of it as well. As I do think there will be people at the club that always said, well, we got him in to get top 4. He didn't do that. Why should we reward him for 2 years? Why? And then also on top of that, he's saying things about certain people in the club, or saying things about the club that certain people don't like. And then Ten Hag comes in and goes, actually, you know what? I'm just, as I said, I make my own decision. I make my own choices. And to be fair, good for him. You know, I don't think that if Ten Hag did make the decision, actually, you know what, it's thanks, but no thanks kind of thing, I'm not sure by all involved it'll be met with much resistance. I don't think Ralph is going to lose any sleep with not being involved in United, considering he's been involved with the last 6 months of the club. And I don't think United are going to lose any sleep by losing Ralph. Maybe it's best for all parties.
Lux Hill agreed that's an unfair comparison because he only had 6 months. Even Moyes got 9 months. Agreed. And that's what I'm saying. I was only just trying to just play devil's advocate. I think in theory we could see whoever came in was destined. Whoever came in, it was still destined to get worse after Solskjaer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if we got Conte in at that time with them players, they just wouldn't have bought in. They wouldn't. There's too many.
I bet even Conte's thinking now. I bet Conte's thinking, you know what?
I'd much rather have this lot.
Yeah.
There's no egos in this Tottenham team. There's limitations in their ability, but they all listen to me and they all fight. They all run around and work hard. And then I've got the 2 world-class players. And I'm in the Champions League. About to get 150 million or whatever it is he's going to get. So we'll see. Might be so straight mutiny in that dressing room. How's that on him? I see what you're saying. Agreed. I just look back on his tenure and say anyone was destined to fail. Yes, it wasn't great. Obviously, yeah, as a manager, we have to. I think we have to separate it, because as a manager, we need to remember that he was brought in as a manager first. Like the consultancy bit afterwards, we didn't even get to judge him off because he didn't get to it. We can only judge him off what he was brought in to do in the 6 months, because we didn't get to the 2 years. And in that 6 months, he was brought in to improve style of play, and get top 4. And obviously, he didn't achieve that. But I think it's too short-sighted, and I think you're forgetting everything that's wrong with that team, and you're forgetting all the managers that them players have thrown under the bus before Ralph Rangnick, before Ollie, and during Jose. If you blame Ralph Rangnick for how bad that team performed, I know the buck stops at the manager and he picks the team and look at the training and what was Chris Armas doing and what was this. I get it. You could say all that was shambolic, but essentially, I don't think anyone can look at them players now and say that you expected them, with what we've seen, to do better. Like Laughing Viking says there, the players screwed Ralph over, full stop. Like, they gave up. This batch of players gave up. They threw in the towel as professional footballers. They said, F this. Can't be bothered to apply myself until we get a proper new manager. Look at the last. That's what they did.
The last 5 games of the season
horrendous.
are a great example of that. Of just not even the sense of they had nothing to play for anyway, but they just could not be bothered at that point. They might as well have not played in some of those games. And again, that's the thing that frustrates me the most is more, like I said, just the sheer lack of planning involved in all of it. As you mentioned, the players. it's not anything new. That's the sad thing, right? A manager that came in, and that's what's funny is that Ralph came in as this sort of someone. You saw these clips on social media of him screaming at the Leipzig players in the dressing room, and they sort of, I guess, withered him down into being a manager of a group of players that couldn't be bothered or cared.
Mm.
And it felt like very much at times, definitely the last few games, it was definitely player versus manager, you know. And it's just sad. Ultimately, it's just sad because you look at the club and just go, "What a mess!
Yeah.
What a mess!"
Can any, and this is important to do because I think you got to talk about this from all aspects. Can any good come of this? Can any good in terms of this just amplifies a clean slate, getting out anyone and anything that was part of and to do with, even though it's you can't pin it all on Ralph Rangnick in them 6 months. It was already effed before he got here.
Yeah,
But the latter toxicity that then turned towards him, the players not liking him, etc., just probably might have rubbed people up the wrong way, and some of those people have now left as well. I'm not excusing the club. I'm just saying I'm asking the question to the community and you, Owen. Can any good come out of this in terms of what this actually is a full-on blank slate though? Like
I mean that's what I was going to
Ten
say.
Hag
Like,
wants this
yeah,
complete autonomy.
it clearly is a fresh start and a blank slate, and almost you could look at it as, and we've discussed this over the course of the last week or so, and it's a difficult conversation to have. It'll be great to discuss it later on in the full view, but there are going to be players, not that they deserve it, but they will get it because it's a new manager, a new coaching staff, and a new season that will get a fresh start or a blank slate, a clean slate, whatever
Mm.
you want to call it, and some of them don't deserve it. And for us fans have had to sit through it the last few years. We don't want to give that to them. We don't feel like they've earned it or deserved it. But a new manager just logically can't walk in and judge some of those players on a time in which he wasn't at the club. So he is going to give some of those players a fresh start, whether they deserve it or not. And maybe you could look at it as of getting rid of Ralph, again, removes that whole, I don't want to say like prejudgment, maybe. If he says this player, oh, I don't like this player, I didn't get on with this player, maybe Ten Hag's like, well, I'll make my own decision on that player. I'll make my own mind up. I'll have to see what my relationship is like with that player, as opposed to your
Mm.
relationship with that player.
Mm.
Whether that's a positive or not, I don't know. I don't know. But the positive, I suppose you can look at it, is that it is a fresh start completely. But for Ralph to be a casualty of that and then have some players still at the club, if you were Ralph, you'd be like, that doesn't seem particularly fair. But then football isn't necessarily always fair.
I think if Man United had an ounce of spine with the decisions that they made, they would have been strong enough or been in a strong enough position to say to Eric Ten Hag, this is going to be our rebuilder in the background. He's got great experience. He's a great guy. This is who you will be working with if they believed in their decision. If they
Mm.
if they spent time doing the right due diligence, if they backed their decision, and again, it shows the incompetency of the club. I just think it keeps going back to that because they've rushed it, seen he's not right for it, and they don't want someone to even arrive at their main position. Like even though I was saying after 3 to 6 months, I thought he would have faded. Let him have the 3 months and six. You chose him for that.
That's
You
again. That's my
chose
point.
him for
He's
that. Like
for a
that's
role
his
he doesn't even
main
start.
job.
He didn't
Exactly.
even start. He didn't even start the role that he came in for, and that's nuts. And it also kind of does scream of, yeah, this season happened. Let's just forget it. No one talk about it. What happened this season, we don't have to talk about ever again. And any like vestige of that, including Ralph, who would
Yeah,
maybe say to Eric Ten Hag, "This player when I was involved, I was here, oh, he was such a
yeah.
pain in the ass."
And then
Whatever. Go,
Ten
no,
Hag would just
no,
say,
no, no.
"Well,
Don't want
listen,
to hear
I'm
about.
gonna."
Don't want to hear about it. That was in the
Exactly,
past. Let's not talk about
exactly.
last season. It never happened. We're starting again fresh, and that's fine. That's fine if you're improving. The only problem is that if we get to this point next year and we're talking about the same issues or the same players or whatever, then you'll say you had the guy there that you could actually learn from some of those mistakes and you ignored him and you let him go. And now that's
Or
on you.
or did Ten Hag take everything that he needed to hear from him? This player's shit. Yeah, they didn't do this well and they didn't do that. By the way, the club don't understand about players like Nkunku. They need to change that. They need to start getting play. Did Ralph hand over the dossier and Ten Hag went, right, cool, cheers. That's all I need from you. I can take it from here.
Maybe. I mean, we don't
That's the
know.
thing.
We weren't there. But I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, my biggest frustration is just yet again, it's more incompetence, more bad planning,
Yeah,
and yet another
it's more
thing
embarrassment.
that that's just right. And yet another thing, opposition fans point and laugh at Manchester United and go, look at them, look at them. They don't even their interim manager, who was going to be there for 2 years, didn't even lasted about 6 months. How hilarious! And it's
Yeah,
just like,
and
yeah,
all them United fans were going on about Gegenpress and Klopp and Tuchel's
yeah,
godfather. Oh yeah, look
yeah,
at him now. That's what
yeah,
it is. That's that. You know what I mean, that's what we were doing.
yeah, exactly. Go back and watch some of those
W
videos before. Oh,
WJ Barrett says Ralph Rangnick stunk the place out. I was all for him, but everyone has to remember that Eric Ten Hag has to work with these players, and Ralph pissed them off. Eric Ten Hag clean slate. So WJ Barrett going on the side of, he was part of some of the mess last year, Ralph Rangnick, and all he needed to do was clear it all out. Sandip says, let's hope United will be fast in buying players and selling deadwood as they are in scrapping Rangnick's consultancy role. And super chat here from, I've read that one from WJ Barrett. I'm making sure I haven't missed any of the super chats. Have I read that one? Yeah, I've read that one. I just we've got transfer business to do. We've got players to get in, we've got players to get out. I still trust in Ten Hag. I don't think, although we can say it's a shocking decision and typical of Man United and indicative of where the failings at the club have been, although those things are true, it hasn't changed my stance on, believing Ten Hag will stamp
no,
his,
no.
I don't think we should allow it to do that, but it's not good. Like I said, when you look at it, they didn't even let him start it, so between Ten Hag and the people who make the decisions, then Ralph, I almost think Ralph as well probably looked at it after he spoke to him and said, and probably thought, do you know what, I'm sitting duck here. Like, well, what do you think Ralph
Yeah, he
must have thought
probably.
after watching that Ten Hag presser? What do you think Ralph thought? Because we're seeing the things from Luckhurst saying that, they didn't even meet in person. They had a phone call.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And then Ralph sees Ten Hag do his first presser and says, well, that's on the club. That
I
I
reckon
just think it is.
honestly, he probably knew even way before that flex. When you're
Yeah,
being
yeah,
asked in like March or April, what's your role like at the end of the season? And you're told, we haven't spoken about it. Hopefully we'll talk about it at the end of the season. In the back of your mind, because it was in the back of a lot of fans' minds and journalists' minds and everyone's mind going, bit weird. You've signed a contract to come in for a role and you don't know what it is yet. That's a bit odd. Or you're going to get that. You're going to find out what that role is later on. That seems very strange for a big club and all that kind of stuff. It always felt off because no one knew what really that consultancy role was. Advisor, consultant, sporting director, head of recruitment. How many times and interchangeable things have we heard? He's sitting with Paul Mitchell. Is Paul Mitchell going to come in? No, Paul Mitchell was going to go on the board at Monaco. All that kind of stuff. And with all of that chaos, you realize that there was never really a plan. There wasn't. And as you mentioned, it doesn't change my opinion on Eric Ten Hag or my faith in him or how well I think he will or won't do at Manchester United. Because in reality, in terms of a knock-on effect, I'm not sure it really has that much. Honestly, I don't. I don't think it massively affects our plans going forward in the transfer market or for next season that much at all, because I don't think Ralph Rangnick was involved in it
no,
at all. So it won't have that effect on that. My biggest issue is that it's just another embarrassment. It's more poor planning. It's yet another black eye, for Manchester United, because it's just let's all point and laugh at United because they clearly don't know what they're doing.
yeah, no, it's true, and it will be looked on from outside the club as, well, they got that wrong. We could have told them that from the start. That guy was shit. But when
Mm.
you lived through every single game like we do, like we have as fans, and follow every single press conference and every single comment like we do as fans, you got a bigger insight into what Ralph was really doing and actually what kind of needed to be done in his role that actually would allow him to probably be quite successful in his actual role. Do you know what I mean? By airing out what's wrong, by helping facilitate getting rid of these players, by giving accurate assessments on the shit, having him in place. This was supposed to be the exciting part.
Yeah,
This
and
was
also as
supposed to
well,
be.
if they didn't have any really intentions or they were unsure about that consultancy role and that was a deal breaker for Ralph, it's an interim manager. Get another manager in for 6 months to the end of the season. You know, the reason that like, the big key or the deal breaker for Ralph in that deal is he said, I didn't want to come into a club that I'd just be working till the end of the season. I wanted to have a more longer term role, hence the consultancy thing. So, like, either United lied and they went, yeah, we'll do a consultancy role, that's fine. And then they were like, we have no intention of giving that to him. Or they, again, at one point that was the plan, and then the plans change. But again, whilst you're recruiting an interim manager, the fact you're recruiting an interim manager, you must, in your mind, know who you want to have your permanent manager be. And they said Eric Ten Hag's the number one choice. So would they have not consulted with Ten Hag at that early stage? We're going to have someone as a consultant or whatever. Just all of it. It's just left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
I'm going to go through some of you guys' comments here as well. JT Smith says, all my hope that the club higher ups have learned their lesson and are finally moving in the right direction are gone. Whoever fired Ralph should also be sacked. This has cost the club money and face. I think it was Ten Hag that got rid, says Jin. And a total screw up we've got here as well. And Halifi says, not surprised. Ten Hag used to be a director of football himself, so he's probably seen this as an opportunity to influence and give guidance from his perspective as opposed to Ralph. You know, I do think that has to come into it. Eric Ten Hag probably saying, I don't want someone like Ralph Rangnick over me who can kind of dictate where the club's going to go. I want control of that, or I want to be more heavily involved in where that's going to go, or spearhead someone else that I think maybe, I don't know. This is just pure assumption here because we don't know, and we will never know. They're never going to release what happened. Someone put earlier in the free seats, there needs to be a Ralph Rangnick interview soon, you know, where he kind of lifts the lid on things.
But not just, and not just like this. I mean, his entire 6-month tenure. Oh, they can make it into a film. Talk about
that could be an Amazon documentary.
Yeah, the Damned United. That could be, you know. And the thing is, you could make it into an actual like scripted film, and they would say that's too unrealistic with all the stuff that happened to Manchester United this season. You know, so look, as I mentioned, do I think it have massive knock-on effects? No, not really. Honestly, is it totally shocking? No, not really. Especially when you watch Ten Hag's first press conference. Does it affect us next season? No, but it's just par for the course, is it not? That's just that's just what we do. We get people in for roles that are going to last 2 years. They last 6 months. They don't even start the new role. Jeez Louise.
It's bullshit. It really is. It is just so. And I think that's the most bitter pill to take from this whole thing. It's so Man United, you know. This is like a continuation. So here we are, exactly a week after the season's finished, as well. By the way, a week after we've just lost to Palace and luckily scammied our way into the Europa League. The week before that, or 2 weeks before that, battered by Brighton. So just whenever we think, I remember saying, I feel like a dickhead now. Finally, I could just switch off now. We've lost. We've made the Europa League. Ten Hag's in. He's done his first presser. We can just look at the signings now and players going in, going out. Man United go, no, there's one more thing. There's one more thing.
There's a little epilogue at the end. You think you finished the comic book, and then right at the end, there's a little couple of it. You're like, what's going on here?
It's like watching a Marvel film.
Exactly. You got your mid-credit scene. The problem is, what's the post-credit scene going to be? That would imply that maybe there's one more thing left.
And what's that going to be? Coming, bro.
Yeah.
And that is it. You know, this is a point where we want to be talking mainly about transfer news, and we'll do a little bit about that. Well, we will do some stuff on that later on this evening. You know, you wanted to talk a little bit about Darwin Núñez, what's going on with Timber, what's going on the latest with the De Jong situation, Pau Torres, etc., etc. All these sorts of things going on, which is routine transfer business stuff, because it's going to be crazy for us. But no, we get that. We get this shit, you know, and it just keeps going on and on and on. You just think, when's it going to stop?
Literally, honestly. I mean, I was saying to Flex before we started, I'm sitting there at Sunday. I'm thinking it's going to be a nice sort of quiet Sunday, day after the Champions League playoff final as well. I was getting excited to watch that. I was watching Stranger Things. I'm getting through that and getting involved in it, gripping. And then it comes up on my phone. Ralph Rangnick, announced he's leaving Manchester United. And I literally sort of went, God, because it's like you said, you go, what's next? Nothing is surprising anymore. So what is next?
Honestly, yeah, like that's the worst thing. It's like something else is going to happen. I don't know
Yeah.
what exactly it's going to be, but what else now? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't even want to utter the words. It can't get any worse than this.
Mm. Yeah, I know.
It
Yeah,
can't.
yeah. I mean, not that this is United's rock bottom by any means or anything like that. And again, I see some people go. Well, I see some people saying that it's not surprising. I don't think it's big news. Look, any person leaving the club, especially when they had 2 years left on in a contracted role, is big news. Is it surprising news? No, that's the difference. But again, it's drama. Always drama. Or it's like I said,
Yeah,
it's like a shit Coronation Street.
yeah,
You might as well go down the
yeah.
Rovers after this.
Well, Sadio Mane is available. Maybe we can maybe we can try and get him.
I know. Good that we just got rid of someone that had a relationship with him, isn't it? And signed him before in the past. That's good.
Honestly. Anyway, so that's your latest Manchester United news from today. Ralph Rangnick has left Manchester United. Let us know what your thoughts are. Is it an absolute shambles from the club? Is it yet another cock up by the Manchester United decision makers who didn't even allow the guy that they brought in to do his primary role? They didn't even allow him to get to that. I almost just going back to it quickly because I just can't move past this. The bit that was the bonus bit. Do you know what, mate? You're really good at this. That's like me saying to you, Owen,
Yeah.
can you come and help me? Just for the 6 months that we get to the end of the season, can you just present a couple shows? I know that's not your main thing. Your main thing is, doing graphics and doing just stuff in the background. But can you just help me get to May, please?
Yeah.
When you get to May, all right, the shows weren't great, but we got through.
Yeah.
And then now we're gonna change loads of graphics and work on loads of stuff. And I go, yeah, that thing that's your primary job, yeah, just leave it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
It. Why?
Don't worry.
Well, I spoke to Mike Phelan. He said he's got it covered. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Mike's leaving as well, by the way. But
Yeah.
you may as well follow him.
Yeah. That's okay.
We'll work
Me
it
and
out
Mike
afterwards.
set up. That's going to go over point. The Phelan View coming soon to YouTube. Announce that now.
Which actually is news as well, guys. As well, Mike Phelan is sorting out he's currently negotiating his anticipated departure from the club.
No, that one isn't surprising. That is when I see when people go, "Oh, it's not a big deal," or "It's not surprising." I look at that and I go, "Well, that's not a big deal, and that's not surprising." Everyone knew that. The Ralph one, well, it's not totally surprising. It still is. Still was the guy picking the team the last 6 months, and he was meant to be staying on longer. That has to be a big deal.
Yeah, I just think there's more shit to come. It's gonna it can get worse. It can get worse.
I said before, there's always people always said this is rock bottom. I always go, you can always go lower every single time.
Lower. And this is going to be something we're going to have to, I dare say, I hate to just keep being in that negative thing, which is just my honest to God feeling. I dare say, there's going to be some big targets we miss out on. We might, one of these that we've been chasing early on, or a good few of them that we've been chasing early on, potentially might not come, and then you feel let down again. And you're like, oh, we chased this guy for this long. He didn't come. What's this? What's that? Versus the thing that I was talking about on Twitter yesterday, which is that we're actually in the mud. So we actually do have a lot of convincing to do. We actually do. I was thinking about that more and more. And I was just like, yeah, like we actually do need to convince players to come to this football club. Asher says, any chance of interviewing Ralph via Zoom? I don't know. If there is, I definitely would. All I can say is I'll try. Yeah, imagine that. I don't know. I'll try. Interviewing Ralph via Zoom. Imagine that. What would you ask him?
What would I ask?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call him Ralph. I'd call him Specs from the get-go. See how he'd react. See how he'd react to that one, because if he got really angry, go, there's something in that. Actually, it's just quite disrespectful anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But what question would I ask?
Yeah.
I don't know. Where'd you start? That takes proper brainstorming, doesn't it? That
100%.
How long have you
I had
got?
an interview with Ralph on Zoom, I would just I would do some serious prep for that. I'd love to do that. Man United, if you're watching and you want a debrief of Ralph afterwards, let me know. We can get him on the channel. And don't forget to like the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel. We will be back this evening with another video for you guys. And yeah, Ralph Rangnick has left the club. There you have it. No surprises there, eh? Typical. Anyway, we're out of here, guys. Peace.